In 1960, when a young English woman named Jane Goodall set out to study chimpanzees in the forests of Tanzania, she broke all the rules about the study of animals in the wild. And as a result, she opened a whole new window into the lives of wild animals and shattered our accepted notions of what it meant to be human. The work made her a world celebrity. Alarmed at what human beings were doing to the world we share with other life, Goodall established the Jane Goodall Institute in 1977 with the objective of protecting chimpanzees and their habitats, and, by extension, other forms of life. The Institute now has 19 offices around the world. In 1991, the Institute created a global youth program called Roots and Shoots, which now consists of more than 10,000 groups in over 100 countries. One of Goodall's most brilliant ideas is that the conservation of nature and the sustainable development of human communities are inextricably linked together, a concept that underlies much of her continuing work at the chimpanzee site in Africa.
Roots and Shoots began in 1991 in Tanzania with a group of 12 high school students. And they came to learn more about animals because they weren't learning at school, and they weren't learning anything about the environment at school. So we talked about all these things, and they became increasingly shocked and eventually decided, well, they would like to do something about some of these things themselves, since governments weren't and the schools weren't. And so we started a sort of club, and they went back and got some friends involved. And that's how it began, very simply. And because the chimpanzee was always, in a way, linking humans with the rest of the animal kingdom, right from the beginning it was, well, choose projects that will help people, help animals, help the environment we all share. 3 different kinds of project. And it didn't grow very fast, but then suddenly it began to take off, like the mid-90s. And it's now in 126 countries with about 16,000 active groups, with membership from preschool through college, through university, more and more adults forming groups. Basically, every single one of us matters. Every single one of us makes a difference every single day. And if we would think about the consequences of the little choices we make, what we eat, what we buy, what we wear, you know, people then begin to make small changes. And it's when thousands, then millions, start making the small changes that we get the kind of change we need. But the name is symbolic, and if you imagine a big tree, and then when it starts to grow, little roots from a seed and a little shoot, and you can pick it up and it seems so weak and so frail, but there is a magic, a life force, a power in that little seed, so strong that those little roots, to reach the water, can work through rocks and eventually push them aside, and that little shoot, to reach the sunlight, can work through cracks in a brick wall and eventually knock it down. So if we see the rocks and the walls as all the problems we have inflicted on the planet, environmental and social, then it's hope. Hundreds and thousands of young people around the world can break through and make this a better place for all living things. Because without hope, there is no hope. If our youth loses hope, we may as well give up.
And you've heard a lot of youth that have lost hope.
I was meeting so many young people who'd lost hope, and that was why it seemed important to develop this Roots and Shoots program.
Mm-hmm. Now, when they say to you, Dr. Jane, do you have hope? And you reply, yes. And then they say, why? What do you say then?
I tell people who ask me if I have hope, and it's a question I get asked all the time, that I've got 4 very simple, naive reasons. Firstly, the human brain. We know it's capable of doing very unpleasant things like weapons of mass destruction, but it's also creating incredible technology. And I really believe that people are finally understanding the harm we've inflicted on the planet and are feeling a sense of urgency with climate change, global warming, and so forth. And when our backs are to the wall, you know, the human beings, the brain's always worked over time, and I think this is happening. And there are more technologies that will enable us to leave a less disastrous environmental footprint, both businesses and individuals. So that's one reason for hope. Second reason is the resilience of nature. We can just about completely destroy a river or a forest or a wetland or whatever it is, but give it time, perhaps give it help, perhaps put a lot of money into it, whatever, but it can come back, maybe not exactly as it was, but it can support life and become beautiful again.
For the Green Interview, I'm Silver Donald Cameron. See you next time.